Valley Talk on 1580 KGAL.
And welcome to Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams. In fact, we were at the Corvallis Airport. And, the B-24 Liberator, the B-17 Flying Fortress are there, and the P-51 Mustang. I actually got to go up and touch all three of those aircraft. Beautiful aircraft. They wanted to fly this morning, but because of what's called VFR, Visual Flight Rule, these World War II aircraft do not have the digital navigation, and so they have to fly into what's called VFR, which is the visibility has to be so many miles, I can't remember exactly how much, before they can fly. So they can't fly this morning. The hope is that at about 4:30 this afternoon, they're going to take the bombers up in the P-51 and fly from 4:30 this afternoon until dark. Now, they were scheduled to be flying now, but because of cloud cover, they can't. And as we were out there this morning, it looked like the clouds were starting to part, so let's keep a good thought, and hopefully they'll get up in the air. If you want to fly, the cost for flying in the airplanes, in the bombers, is $425 for a half hour for adults. If you want to just take the ground tour, and the planes right now are parked on the tarmac at the Corvallis Airport, it's $12 adults, $6 for kids, and when we were there was a number of adults, World War II veterans, and people were starting to stream in and look at the airplanes. Had a chance to talk to some of the kids. There was this one little girl, and she wants to be a pilot. And she actually had a chance to talk to the Reach helicopter pilot. Reach is the air ambulance service in the Corvallis area. And she told her mom that she wants to be a pilot and help people live, which is a good thing. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. Today is Skin Talk. It is the second Thursday of the month here on the Valley Talk segment here on KGAL. And in the studios with us today, Dr. John Young is on assignment, I guess we can say. He's a bit indisposed right now. So we have PA Mark Williams, resident dermatologist Corey Mon back in the microphone, and Cajun Joe is back once again on the mic.
I am back, and first of all, let me congratulate the Beavers for making it to the College World Series, and if they make it to the finals, they can get to play LSU, because LSU will just roll through their bracket, and they will be in the finals.
So, okay, this is a tough question now, Joe. All right, now, everybody kind of hang on to their hats for this one. LSU versus Oregon State. What do you think?
Oh, you want to know who wins?
Yeah. Who are you going to be?
It would be a good game.
Be a good game.
I can live with Oregon State winning because baseball in Louisiana is just something we use to occupy our time until football season starts. So, it really doesn't matter. It's nice. But, one thing I might say is that LSU has led the nation in attendance for 18 straight years. They do draw nice crowds there.
Have you ever thought of running for office, Joe?
No, but I've run from the law several times. That's why I'm in Oregon.
Great answers. Okay. I was going to try to see if we could figure out whether you're going to root for OSU or Louisiana.
I would just like to say a good game.
Okay. Good answer.
Or two good games, or three good games, because they play best 2 out of 3 when they reach the finals.
Okay. But football season rolls around.
Football season is not too far away. I'm ready.
Okay. What you been doing with yourself? We haven't seen you for a few days.
Been traveling. Dr. Young's mother, my wife, we've been getting around. We like to go to casinos, so we made a trip up to Washington, and a couple of weeks we're going back to Washington, and in August we're going down to San Diego. And, been playing a lot of golf.
All right. Well,
getting my golf in. The game still stinks, but the golf course is beautiful.
Okay. I was going to ask you what you golf, but do you want to share that with us, or are you still working on it?
Well, I'm at a crossroads right now. I'm taking lessons, so it's either get better or take up bowling, because you lose less balls when you bowl.
There you go. I tried golfing once, and I gave up. The first course was bordering, interestingly, an airport, and I could hit the ball, and then my ball had a hook on it like you would not believe. And I got tired of having to chase the balls across the runway, because you'd have to stop and you'd have to look to see if there were airplanes coming for you to chase your golf ball. So
it's a tough game, it really is.
It is. And I can't understand how this ball, you hit it that way and it goes south. And I never could figure that one out. I have I don't know what they call it, a slice, or it's got a hook on it.
Well,
what's that called? It's probably a slice.
Or you didn't study physics.
Yeah.
Whatever. So after about
I'm
8 holes,
taking lessons, and I know why it does that. You know, it doesn't mean I don't do it. It's just I know why it's happening.
Oh, well, I can't teach you anything about golf. I gave up after 8 holes.
Fun game.
Yeah. But I
Takes
do
a lot
like
of time.
airports. I'm still hanging around airports as I was this morning. Hey, let's get back to Skin Talk. We have PA Mark Williams, who is a physician's assistant. Thank you for being with us on Valley Talk. Skin
You're welcome.
Talk. Is this the first time you've been on the show?
I've been on the show quite a few times, actually.
So tell us what a physician's assistant is.
A physician assistant is a medical practitioner. We provide medical care under the supervision of a physician. We do minor surgical procedures, write prescriptions, physical exams, diagnose, and treat medical problems.
Well, you know, in a perfect world, what we'd like to do is have the physician see the patients first, and then have Mark or some of our other mid-levels do a follow-up. But as you know, we don't live in a perfect world, so Mark gets to see a lot of new patients, and he's been with us over 5 years now and does a heck of a job. We're very pleased with him, and I think anyone that comes in as a patient would also be very pleased with him. He does a good job.
We've had an early spring.
No charge. I won't take that out of your check this one.
Yeah, that one's free gratis there. We've had an early summer this time. We've got a lot of, not today, but we've had a lot of sun, more so normally than you have in the springtime of the year here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. Normally we have, I understand, more rain, so we've had an early summer, really nice spring, a lot of sunshine, a lot of people who aren't used to getting a lot of sun are out there getting a lot of sun. May not be a good thing. What are you seeing in the office as far as sunburns, and what do we need to be careful of as we've been out there sun worshiping, probably more so than normal?
Well, I haven't seen too many sunburns. I think usually the patients are a little too sheepish to come in and show us their burns because they probably know what we'll say to them.
They'll get scolded.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously we're recommending sunscreen for everybody, especially those golfers that are out there.
Well, before we finish, I'm going to give you the nasty little inside secret on sunscreen that the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know.
That yet to come on Skin Talk.
Right. Yet there's more.
That's called a tease. We want you to listen to the show, and there's
that'll be after the break.
Tip from Cajun Joe. That way we hook you through the commercials. But really, even if one bad sunburn is one too many, and why is that?
Well, sunburns are a risk factor for melanoma. So, they're unpleasant. They can scar your skin. They hurt. But it's the melanoma risk that's the part of it that we're most concerned about.
What is it about a sunburn that damages the skin and possibly leads to melanoma? Corey, you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So, any type of damage, and we know this from people who've had radiation exposure or who've had chemical exposure. So, ultraviolet rays are considered forms of radiation, which also can damage your skin cells to a point where when they are, our skin turns over every 59 to 76 days. It completes a cycle of our top layer of our skin turning over.
So we actually replace our entire skin layer?
Well, the top layer, yeah. The underlying layer that has like the blood vessels and the fat and the nerves, that doesn't turn over, near as much. But the top layer, that waxy layer of your skin, does. And that's why you have flaky skin sometimes, and people have eczema. It turns over a little faster. And so the bottom part of that layer is where we have stem cells. It's called the basal layer. And so when you get damage that penetrates through that area, you cause these cells to start not working right. It's kind of like, there's a great video that I saw on YouTube that I used in a lecture, and it's about a cyclist in Australia, and he's cruising along the course, and all of a sudden this animal, which looks like a deer for all intents and purposes, just pummels the guy off of his bike out of nowhere, just knocks him right off. And that's kind of what happens when you're developing skin cancer, is everything it's decided what it wants to be when it grows up, and it gets to be what it wants to be. And cancer comes in and confuses them, knocks them off their bike, and then they can't decide what they want to be when they grow up. And that's essentially what all cancer is a confused cell. And so this sunlight, as it damages these cells, it confuses them. They forget what they want to be when they grow up, and then they just start to grow uncontrollably, and that's what leads to the skin cancer.
Interesting. I've never heard an analogy like that, but it's a good analogy. Works.
It does. Yeah, we've seen a lot lately of skin cancer, both melanoma and non-melanoma.
More so than normal, and because we've had more sun.
I'm not exactly sure. It kind of seems like it goes in waves at times. But last week we had 2 days where we had 5 melanomas that we had diagnosed.
In one day?
Yeah, and one of which was what we call an amelanotic melanoma, meaning that it doesn't have color. It doesn't look like a black, scary spot that everyone kind of can pick out. I mean, I often tell my patients, once it gets bad enough, my 5-year-old can pick out a melanoma. I mean, anyone can be taught to say, hey, that doesn't look right. It's probably pretty bad. But we try to catch them when they're not that way so that you have a higher chance of survival and that you have a less chance of it spreading to your internal organs. And this individual had one that was just pink. It was just a pink little spot on the back and was biopsied and came back as a melanoma. So I think it's just a good reminder of screening. And we often, and I've said this before on the air, but we know certain cancer screenings in our life, like colon cancer, mammograms and pap smears and prostate checks. These are all things that have been ingrained into us as we've been getting older, as you got to get these done so you don't get cancer.
It's on our checklist.
Yeah, and you're 50, it's time to drink the horrible medicine and get the tubes placed places where you might not like. And
you don't want the garden hose stuff there.
And people are, I think, pretty in tune with that recommendation and they get it done. But what they don't realize is that the most common cancers, the ones you're going to probably get at some point in your life, number 1 and number 2 are both skin. And it shocks me every day when I'll see someone who's in their late 70s and I'll ask them, when was your last skin check? Oh, I've never had a skin check. Never had my skin looked at. And we've talked about doing some research on how many times we see someone that comes in for a little wart on their finger or some rosacea on their cheeks or whatever the reason may be. And we encourage them to get a skin check and we find cancer. It happens every day. And so I think it's a great reminder to those listeners out there that if you've never had a skin check, these things grow very quietly until it's too late. And so if you haven't had your doctor look between your toes and under your bra straps and places like that, then you haven't had a good skin check yet.
Corey usually reminds us at this point about Bob Marley.
Yes. Bob Marley. A lot of people don't know who he is, but a lot of people should know who he is. He's a great reggae singer.
Don't worry, be happy.
Yeah. So, and if you heard his song, you'd know many of his hits. But yeah, he passed away from a melanoma between his toes. He's African American or Caribbean, and it was something that wasn't diagnosed for a long time. And because of his personal and religious beliefs, he did not decide to pursue treatment, which is probably the reason for his death. But still, I think it shocks a lot of people to know that you can have melanoma in places where you haven't had sunburns. And that's why you get checked. And we check our patients once a year. That's the official American Academy of Dermatology recommendation, is that patients be screened yearly for skin cancer.
And I can tell you, our providers do a really good job of looking at this stuff, because been there, done that. They gave me the once over a couple of times, and luckily no big deal. But anybody that does have any problems, just remember, we are Silver Falls Dermatology. We're right here in Albany, and we're at 14th and Waverly. The phone number here is 541-967-8385. And we're kind of excited because our Corvallis office is getting ready to move in about 4 months or so. We bought a new, really nice facility. We're going to be expanding over there a little bit from just right down the road on Northwest Kings Highway. And Mark might be able to tell us a little bit more about the building, because strangely enough, that's where Mark worked before he came to us at Silver Falls. And now he's going to be going back there and making the full circle.
Old Home Week.
Yeah, so the building is in the complex adjacent, there's a medical complex adjacent to Winco. There are dentists and insurance companies, and so I know it's a little difficult to find, but it's right off of Kings Boulevard by Winco.
We're going to have Mark dressed up as a mole, and he's going to be standing on the highway with a sign, letting you know where we are.
Spinning the sign.
Spinning the sign.
You always want to be a sign spinner? Mark?
Yeah, definitely. Right next to the pizza guy down the street.
There you go.
It's the mole outfit that really drew him into this.
So Silver Falls Dermatology, located in Albany, Corvallis, Salem.
Woodburn. Next month we're opening in Gresham. Next year we're opening Longview, Washington.
Busy. Now, you also have state-of-the-art diagnostics and treatment equipment. One of the things that always kind of impresses me when I see a picture of it is the Mellifine unit. It looks like a radar speed gun.
Yeah.
And you just stick it on somebody's mole and take a picture.
Essentially.
How easy is that?
We have actually a number of law enforcement patients who have commented on that looks like they're radar guns. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a nice new technology, and as we just were discussing skin cancer, it is a unique device that only 2 offices in Oregon have at this time, and it gives us more information as we evaluate lesions or moles that we think are potentially worrisome. So it's not a machine that we scan and it shows a big screen that says yes melanoma, no melanoma. It gives us more information. So it analyzes and compares your mole with 700 other melanomas, and it uses algorithms and calculations to determine how much similarity your mole has with this big group of melanomas. And then it kicks out a number to us. And that's something that as providers we're trained to interpret that number and take our clinical impression of your spot, and we use that number to kind of push us off one side of the fence. So sometimes moles are not completely clear whether they should be removed or not. Sometimes it's in that area where you're like, well, we could watch it and monitor it, or we could take it off and check it. And so this is now giving us a little bit more data, and it was designed to not fail. So when it gives us a good reading, we feel pretty comfortable with monitoring it because the machine is brand new. It was FDA approved, and it does not want to have a lawsuit. And so it found a lot of melanomas because it was very safe.
Saved some lives?
I'm sure it probably did, yeah. I'm sure it did.
And that's the Mellifine radar gun unit is available. Is it at the Albany office? Does it travel around?
It is, yeah. We have one at Corvallis, Albany, Salem, and Woodburn, I believe. Do you have one at Woodburn?
Yep, I believe so.
All right. We are talking to the good folks at Silver Falls Dermatology, Mark Williams, Corey Mon, and Cajun Joe back on mic once again. More on Skin Talk in just a moment.
Going out to lunch at a nice restaurant can be expensive, and the big portions put you more in the mood for a nap than a productive afternoon. Mama's Fine Italian to the rescue. The small appetite senior menu is just right. Anyone and everyone is invited to order from the Light Appetites menu for lunch from 11 to 4 p.m. with tasty entrees beginning at only $4.95. Why go hungry or go anywhere else for lunch? Eat healthy, eat light at Mama's. Closed Sunday and Monday, so make the most of Tuesday through Friday and join your friends at Mama's for lunch. Dinner only on Saturday. Mama's features charbroiled steaks every day. Make reservations for dinner or pick up a bottle of fine wine. Seating is limited, so please call for reservations. 541-451-5050. That's 451-5050. Mama's Fine Italian and Wine Shop on West Oak between Main and 2nd in Lebanon, across from the Big Blue Napa Auto Parts Building.
Celebrate Japan at the 16th Annual World Beat Festival on June 29th and 30th at Riverfront Park in Salem. World Beat 2013 will feature a non-stop program of international music and dance with special guests from Japan. Experience everything from Japanese cooking lessons to Rakugo Japanese comedy to a kimono fashion show. Headline band Gary Small and the Coyote Brothers will perform Saturday evening leading into the grand finale with Portland Taiko, Earth and Essence Fire Dancers from Eugene. Recently named Best Performing Arts Festival, this year's World Beat features nonstop fun for all ages. Feast on the ethnic food and shop for clothing and gifts from distant lands. Join the celebration Saturday from the Small World Parade kickoff to the Lion Dances of Taco Fuji Dance Company. On Sunday, cheer on the World Beat Dragon Boat Races. Feel the heartbeat of the world at Salem's Riverfront Park on June 29th and 30th. For more information, visit worldbeatfestival.org. World Beat is sponsored by Willamette University, Yamasa Corporation, Statesman Journal, and KGAL K-Show Radio.
What do you expect to accomplish this year? Whatever the task, it's easier with the top-selling subcompact tractor, the Kubota BX70 from Lynn Benton Tractor. And now during Kubota's Great Expectation sales event, you'll not only get a great deal on the BX70, you can expect great versatility, performance-matched implements, and great value. Raise your expectations with a new Kubota BX70, now with financing as low as 0% APR. There's a BX Series model for you at Lynn Benton Tractor on McLean Street in Silverton or on Highway 99E, Tangent.
Saturday a.m., families in the truck, ready for camping, and there's a problem with the engine. Take your vehicle to the new guys in town, D&D Auto and Diesel Repair. With over 65 years of combined experience, celebrating their grand opening this Saturday with a 10% off any service certificate. Free hamburgers and hot dogs for the entire family. From oil changes to overhauls and free estimates, D&D Auto and Diesel Repair is your first stop. Call Dean and Dennis, 541-259-4677. See them at the grand opening this Saturday at 2727 South Main Road in Lebanon, behind the Weimar Shopping Center. D&D Auto and Diesel Repair.
From PCs to the internet, Kim Commando has the answers. Saturday mornings on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
Welcome back to Skin Talk. It is the second Thursday of the month, and it is time for us to learn about all things dermatological. And what we want to do is we want to keep you safe. We want to keep you around for years to come because, you know what? We really like you. And one of the things that, oh, by the way, Cajun Joe has a skin tip for us that we want to make sure that we get in. We don't want to forget Cajun Joe's skin tip. Maybe we should make that a regular feature.
Call your friends and relatives and gather around the radio.
Okay, we're recording it now.
Shocked.
It'll be on the internet, so if you miss it, you can rewind and listen to it again.
Can we call it like the Crawfish Minute or something like that?
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let's hire this young man. He's pretty sharp.
Well, you know, talking about Dr. Mon here, we have a residency program where we actually teach doctors to become dermatologists. It takes 3 years, and we are one of the very few private teaching institutions that does this. So it's a pretty big deal. We have Dr. Mon and Dr. Marcus with us right now. We have 2 new docs that'll be joining us July 1st, and then next year we'll have 2 more. So actually after July 1st of next year, we'll have 6 residents roaming around. They're going to have a lot of time on their hands, so I plan on letting them clean my car regularly and a couple of things like that.
Don't forget the hubcaps.
Yeah. They, but they become dermatologists by working with us at Silver Falls Dermatology. There's a program Dr. Young has set up that goes through certain steps and through certain criteria that they have to stay up with as they go along, and then after their 3-year residency, they'll take the test and become a board-certified dermatologist.
How does that make you feel at Silver Falls Dermatology to know that you're training up and equipping the next generation of dermatologists to carry on the tradition? You know, after you and I are not here, these guys are going to be here diagnosing melanomas and so on and so forth.
Well, you know, right now there's a move in the dermatology industry, I guess, that a lot of the older dermatologists are leaving the profession, and part of the reason is that the government regulations that they have to become Medicare compliant by the end of, I think probably the end of this year. And if they're not, they get fined. And if the fine is they're paid less money from Medicare, which is not the best coverage in the world anyway. So, and a lot of them don't want to go to the electronics because they've been doing charts for the 40 years or so that they've been dermatologists, and they just don't want to do it. It's a very expensive process. So they're walking away from their dermatology practices, and they have 2 concerns. Well, they have 3 concerns. One is, of course, their patients. The other thing is their employees. And the third thing is they're required to administer their records for 10 years after they retire. And that's not a whole lot of fun, having people call you up for the next 10 years wanting a copy of their records. So, you know, that's why we're expanding to Gresham. That's why we're expanding to Longview. And we've been contacted by several other dermatologists. And we're just looking at it, and it's feasible. The hard part is to find the providers and to find the right kind of providers that are acceptable to Silver Falls Dermatology. So, the next couple of years could be a tremendous growth unit, even though we've had tremendous growth already. So that's the story on our residents. We're thrilled to death with the two we have, and it looks like they're going to stay on it after their residency and work with us at Silver Falls Dermatology. And we just, as they used to say, please this bunch. I don't know what that means, but
it works.
Please this bunch.
Well, thank you for doing all you do to generate the next generation of dermatologists and train them up so they can take care of us as we get older. And that's one of the things that we do as we get older. And as we do get older, we need to be checked out, skin checks. Now, we were talking about Bob Marley, the musician, the Don't Be Happy guy, or Don't Worry, Be Happy. He's no longer with us anymore. I guess he's not too happy right now. But the thing about Bob Marley, perfect example. Young guy. He had a mole in what a lot of people might think is an unimportant area of your body, between your toes. And it killed him. So there's just something to be learned there from the Mr. Marley experiment. And
most people don't realize you can get moles between your toes. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
But being around Dr. Young the past 7 years, and I found out a lot of things. And I go to the golf course, and I play with the seniors a lot. And because I work at Silver Falls, or semi-work, whatever you want to call it, I get guys at the golf course, and they know that I'm associated with the practice, and they'll show me a spot on their face, and they'll say, "What do you think this is?" I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "All I can recommend is that you go get it checked out." I said, "I can help you putt a little bit better." I said, "But I can't tell you what it is on your face." But it's really funny because they think just because you're there in any capacity, you know what all this stuff is. And believe me, I'm clueless.
Corey, what would you tell the people, and I know we've all had this experience, where a loved one or a friend, maybe we're at the golf course, maybe we're at the gym working out, and we see a mole on some guy's back, or maybe our significant others or whatever, and we're saying, that looks a little funny. And usually what the reaction is, out of sight, out of mind. Oh, it's okay, I don't want to worry about it, I'm too busy. Maybe they're afraid to go in and get it checked out because they're afraid what you might say as a dermatologist. And right now they're feeling pretty good, and it's just out of sight, out of mind. And if I ignore it, it'll go away.
It's definitely a valid fear, and one that we hear and see a lot. And a lot of the times it's because one spouse has finally nagged the other enough to get them in. And we had a good example of this a month or two ago, where there was a spot on the back that was there for years. 5 or 6 years, growing, getting bigger and bigger, and bleeding, and they just kept putting bandages on it. Finally, the wife and got the husband to come in and have us take a look at it. And when we see it, we're like, oh my goodness. It kind of shocks us that something could go that long, but you make a very good point, is that I think that fear is there of, well, I don't want to be told the answer to what it is. I kind of, and that's the tough thing with skin cancer, is that it doesn't make you sick until it's way, way too late. And, a lot of cancers are like that, but skin in particular is very dangerous that way. And so this had been growing big, and it ended up being a fairly involved removal of that. And then, oddly enough, in examining it, just to the side of it was a melanoma, which was actually the more serious cancer. But he came in for this really big non-melanoma type of skin cancer in the center of his back. So, I don't know the best answer. I think, from hearing different stories, just that persistence of letting them know, like, that that you want them to be around, and that you want them just to have it looked at. And as far as coming in to see us, it's such a simple thing. You come in, we take a look, and then I tell people too that sometimes it seems like we come to our conclusion very quickly. Mm-hmm. And it's probably right. And I compare it with my patients. Are like, wow, that didn't it only took you a second to tell me that was okay. And it's kind of like this is what we do all day in and day out, and that's, we're the experts in skin, and we're used to it. And it's like if I, had you come in and tell me, and you said, hey, Dr. Mon, I just saw a red car outside. I'd believe you. I think you've probably seen a lot of red cars in your life.
Yeah, he knows what the red car is.
I know. I think you know what a red car looks like.
He's dialed in.
And it's very similar. And so for us, it only takes a few seconds for us to be able to say, it's okay. You don't need to treat it right now. We can watch it. Or it needs to come off so I can look at it under a microscope so that I can tell you for sure what we're dealing with.
So let's say it's a small mole and it's not okay. Generally what you do, you just slice it off. They could do it in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these are done under just local anesthetics. You don't need to be put out. It's a very, very small needle that doesn't, we use some additional parts to our anesthesia that make it a little bit less of a bite. And patients often will say, boy, I didn't even know you'd done anything, and it's already done. So with melanoma, depth is very important. And so it's another thing to be aware of is that a lot of people who aren't trained in dermatology in particular tend to want to shave and kind of just do the quicker diagnostic
just shave
test,
the top
and
off.
Shave the top off. And so a lot of the times we'll see the patient after that's been done and they say, well, they have a melanoma that's at least this deep. But we don't know how truly deep it is because you cut it in half, and so by the time you were even able to see the patient again, you would already have, the wound would start to be healing. You'd start to have what's called granulation. So it's all this, healing's already occurring and it's already gotten thick. Even within hours of you doing that, it's already starting to thicken up. So the appropriate treatment, if we are suspicious, is that you take the whole little piece out. And so if it's a little mole the size of a pencil eraser, we take that little piece out. You might get one stitch, as we're evaluating it, which is very, reasonable so that we can tell you exactly how deep it may be. Now, of all the patients I see every day that come in for something that they're worried about, it's not a high percentage that I end up doing this on. But when it needs to be done, it needs to be done.
Let's talk about needs to be done. One of the things, and I've used this as an example before, but it really stuck out in my mind, is I was at a dermatologist's office in Ontario, Oregon. Remember the dermatologist's name, I won't repeat it now. But and so I was in the next waiting room, and there was an older man and his wife in the next examination room, and you could hear what was going on. And the dermatologist came in and said, well, we suspect that this mole is cancerous, it needs to come off. And the older lady said, well, he's an old guy, he's been around for a while, he's led a good life, so essentially, it's not that big of a deal. And to her, skin cancer was, well, he's going to die anyway, so just let him run his course. And I thought the dermatologist was going to take her head off because he said, lady, we need to talk. And so I was just sitting there and thought, well, this could be interesting. And what he said is, you do not understand just how vicious and how sick this man can get and how much pain he's going to go through if this cancer gets deeper and starts invading his body. True story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, melanoma it's probably right up there with the worst cancer you can get. I mean, pancreatic cancer is probably a good opponent to melanoma. But yeah, it can spread very quickly. And although melanoma in itself is not a super common type of cancer, it's when you get it, it's a big deal and it needs to be treated appropriately. And there are some good therapies for when it's localized. We can take it out with a very high cure rate. Once it's metastasized, so the patients that have waited a long time to come in, or it's just gone unnoticed for such a long time, that's a different story. And there's nothing really good right now on the market that is treating this. There's some systemic chemotherapies that give you some temporary remission, but then it just explodes once you're off of it, or you get other forms of skin cancer that replace the melanoma. So there's nothing good.
Yeah, it's not one of the ways you want to end your life.
Right. That's the message that this physician told this lady, and she definitely walked away with a new understanding of it. But he was, I would use the word passionate about saying, listen, you don't understand how serious this is. And I think a lot of people are in that situation.
And we have a lot of patients ranging from ages from, I saw a 3-month-old the other day all the way to I have several patients over 100. And so we really have a broad spectrum of patients that we see. And I tell some of the elderly patients, they'll come in and say, well, do I need to do anything? I'm 80. I'm probably going to die from something else. And I tell them, I said, I have patients that are happy. They have good quality of life. They're 102. And if I stopped treating their skin cancer when they were 80, they would be really mad at me right now because they'd probably be pretty sick. And they'd have some problems that could have been prevented. And so we try not to play ageist in our profession because we don't know. We don't know exactly how long someone's going to have. And if I knew for sure next month you weren't going to be around, of course I wouldn't do it because that would, not be very realistic. But we just don't know.
But let's say you're 70 now, and let's say you live to be 100. You got another good 30 years.
30 years. That's a long time.
That's a whole nother lifetime.
Yep.
Stick around and enjoy it because there's lots of fun to be had. Hey, we're going to be back with Skin Talk in just a moment. We have in the studios Mark Williams, a physician's assistant, resident dermatologist Corey Mon, and the one and only Cajun Joe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a tip from Cajun Joe when we come back here on Skin Talk in just a moment. Stay with us.
The Osgood File, sponsored in part by Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. Visit AutoOwners.com. This is Charles Osgood. We sometimes turn to poetry to help us capture the importance of the big moments, a funeral or presidential inauguration. The U.S. Poet Laureate Natasha Trethewey would like us all to turn to it for all our moments. For example, that time she went fishing with her father and suddenly realized he wasn't immortal.
I can tell you now that I tried to take it all in, record it for an elegy I'd write one day when the time came. Your daughter, I was that ruthless.
The story after this. Why turn to a trusted choice agency for your insurance needs? Because a trusted choice insurance agency is an independent advocate that works for your interest, not for any one company. That allows them to find the coverage, the company, and the price to fit your needs. They pledge to treat you as a person, not a policy. When you're looking for a trusted friend in the industry for home, auto, life, or business insurance, turn to Trusted Choice. Visit trustedchoice.com today. Every day, it seems, there's something new your smartphone can do. Now, it can open and close your garage door from anywhere in the world. With a LiftMaster garage door opener with MyQ technology, you can use your smartphone or computer to control your garage door from anywhere, anytime, like right now. And LiftMaster garage door openers with battery backup keep your garage door working even if the power isn't. Find a dealer near you at liftmaster.com. Go ahead, look it up on your smartphone. The folks at the Library of Congress think Natasha Trethewey has been doing a good job as the country's poet laureate. So good, in fact, they want her to keep doing it. She's been appointed to another term as the public champion for poetry. The Librarian of Congress says Trethewey believes there's a poem for everyone, even if they don't like poetry. She says her goal is to make her work reveal things that we often have trouble expressing in words.
I think the biggest thing that I learn each time is that I can find, I hope, the best words and best order to convey what seems to me often so difficult to speak, what must be spoken, but is often hard to be spoken.
Trethewey will soon have a regular forum for trying to express what some might worry is inexpressible. She'll be appearing regularly on the PBS NewsHour, traveling the country for a series of specials that show how poetry can be used to talk about anything. Trethewey says one thing a poem can do is bear witness.
When I turned 33, my father said, "It's your Jesus year. You're the same age he was when he died. It was spring, the hills green in Mississippi."
Trethewey even holds regular office hours for the public at the Library of Congress, just in case someone wants to stop by and talk about words. She says lots of people do. The Osgood File. Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network.
Since 1988, Mike McHenry, owner of McHenry Remodeling, has been putting big smiles on satisfied customers' faces. Here's one now. See? Now that's a grin from ear to ear. Mike McHenry has 25 years of experience with kitchens, bathrooms, decks, rot repair, roofing, residing, and more. As a trade ally contractor of Energy Trust of Oregon, McHenry Remodeling can help with cash incentives and state energy tax credits to improve the energy efficiency of your home. Call McHenry Remodeling now, 541-981-1203. It's time you smiled again. CCB 1999-12.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-725-4429. 1-800-725-4429. That's 1-800-725-4429. 1-800-725-4429.
Need a home? Then listen to Real Estate Talk with Dave Pouch, Saturday mornings on Smart Talk 1580.
Don't worry, be happy. And that's one and only Bob Marley. We've talked about him a couple times here on Skin Talk, and we use him as an example of a young guy in prime of life, very famous, making lots of money. But as they say, you can't take it with you. And we just use him as an example of why you want to get early diagnosis of skin conditions, moles. Bob Marley had a mole between his toes. You might want to see. And I know when we have Corey Amon on the show, resident dermatologist at Silver Falls Dermatology, we mention this quite a bit because it's a perfect example of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And you were even, in fact, looking up a little bit more about Mr. Marley during the break.
Yeah, just was trying to refresh my memory of some of the details. But so he had it, and it was actually more just underneath the nail of one of his toes. And they had recommended amputation of that toe to, that would be a standard treatment when you get a melanoma in that location, and refused. And from 1977 to 1980 was all it took for
3 years
for the melanoma to spread through and take his life. So, yeah, pretty serious.
Well, I've heard Dr. Young say in the past that the age group that's the biggest problem for melanoma, for death from melanoma, is like the 25 through 40 age. The time of your life when you think you're superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
That's why everybody at every age should be getting their skin checked. And we are Silver Falls Dermatology, right here in Albany, right down the road in Corvallis, also right over in Salem, Woodburn, and places north. Local phone number here would be 541-967-8385. I went blank there for a second.
That's okay.
And I know everyone's been waiting anxiously.
Okay, here's
about the inside story on sunscreen.
There you go.
The thing about sunscreen is basically, in most cases, you're getting ripped off. And I'm saying that from the price standpoint because the most efficient cost-wise protection you can get is SPF 30. And if I remember correctly from listening to one of Dr. Young's talks, I think it gives you something like 94.4% protection. And when you go up past the 30, all the way up to 100, it only goes from like 94.4 to 94.7 or 8. It's not very much, and they charge you a heck of a lot more money for anything above that. So just remember, Occasion Joe recommends SPF 30.
SPF 30, and if you go any more than that, you're just kind of wasting your money.
Pretty much.
Let's talk about sunburns here with Physician's Assistant Mark Williams. You wanted to add something more about sunburns?
Yeah, we were talking about sunburns and melanoma risk factors. I think the other important thing to remember is melanoma does not always occur from a sunburn. So you can get melanoma in places where the sun doesn't shine, which, is a good reminder to realize you need to come in and get that skin check and make sure all these places are being looked at. It's not just sun-exposed areas where melanomas occur.
Is it hereditary? Is it something that certain families are more prone to than others?
There's a component of that.
Yeah, there's certain genes that can be mutated that will give you a higher likelihood of getting melanoma. There's familial atypical melanocytic nevus syndrome. So there's like certain syndromes where you'll get more atypical moles, and then you'll have a higher chance of having a melanoma. So yeah, some of them. And there's even some small link to certain forms of breast cancer with certain mutations. But, as Mark was saying, I mean, the melanoma, when you're developing, you have these pigmented cells, the melanocytes, which is basically melanoma comes from a cancer of this cell. And they migrate all over the place. And between your toes, as we've discussed, but in your mouth, they can occur in your eyes. There have been reports of melanomas being found in the inner ear, so behind the eardrum. You can imagine that's only an autopsy type of diagnosis because there's no way you were going to find that before. So, I mean, that's tough and that's super rare. And we don't want people losing sleep at night thinking they have melanoma behind their ear. But, it just shows you, too, that, it is a serious condition. And fortunately, the vast majority of melanomas occur in places where we can see.
Who should get a skin check?
Everyone.
Everybody. No exceptions.
No exception. Well, and we start to really heavily recommend it in individuals that have fair skin, blue eyes, history of skin cancer. There's all these risk factors where we really strongly encourage it. But otherwise, if you have any spots that you're worried about in any way, it's our pleasure to take a peek at it and just to comfort you at least, and then give you some time. And if you're a teen or in your young 20s and you look great, we sometimes will say come back in a couple years and see us. But once you get into your 30s and 40s, it's pretty much a yearly thing we like to see. And I've seen plenty of patients where 1 year they're cancer free, 1 year later they're not. And so the skin just changes way too fast to give you the colonoscopy 5-year warranty.
How many times do we come in a year for a skin check? Once? Twice?
Once.
Just once.
Now, sometimes if you've had a melanoma in the past or other forms of skin cancer, we'll often recommend to come in more often. Melanoma, if you've been diagnosed, you should be in every 3 months for the first 2 years, and then 6 months for 1 year, and then you change to yearly as long as you haven't had another melanoma diagnosed.
What's the best time of the year for the checkup? Springtime? Fall? Does it matter?
Anytime.
Anytime you can get in is the best time.
All right.
Yeah.
Skin Talk, and we'll continue here on KGAL in just a moment.
Yo, guess who's back, baby? It's your boy Randy Jackson. Your favorite American Idols are on tour.
Saturday, July 20th, on stage at Rose Garden.
Come check out Amber, Angie, Aubrey, Burnell, Candace, Curtis, Devin, Janelle, Creed, Lazaro. Oh, baby.
Reserve seats are on sale now at the box office, participating Safeway Tickets West locations by phone or rosequarter.com. Don't miss Portland's own Aubrey. Produced by AEG Live. Sponsored in part by Claire's.
Another fun event is coming up at the Mennonite Village, and you are invited. The McManus Comedies, featuring A Fine and Pleasant Misery, written by Patrick McManus and performed by Tim Behrens, will be presented July 26th at 7 p.m. The side-splitting one-man show introduces 12 zany McManus characters, from Rancid Crabtree to daft old Mrs. Swisher, from Strange the Dog to a deer on a bicycle. The McManus Comedies are family-friendly, hilarious stories about growing up in rural America. He is one of the most popular authors in the country, where his 23 titles have sold more than 6 million copies, and 5 of his collections of short humor have made the top 10 on the New York Times bestseller list. Yes, indeed, it promises to be a fun evening on the 26th of July, 7 p.m. in the Oak Creek Christian Center, just south of the Mennonite Village campus on Columbus Street in Albany. $15 tickets are available online at MennoniteVillage.org. Information is available by calling Whitney Olson at 541-704-4247.
Are your teeth loose from gum disease? Are you headed for dentures? Did you know inflammation of infected gums could contribute to diabetes and heart disease? Now there's great news from Dr. Dennis Clark. Dr. Clark's skillful use of laser periodontal therapy will dramatically help hundreds of Mid-Valley patients. Bleeding gums heal, loose teeth tighten, the bone even grows back. Results that amaze Candy Lugo of Lebanon.
I had a problem with my 2 front teeth. I had a really bad cavity in the front. It was really bad. I was really embarrassed to smile, and came in and he said, we can fix you up. You can change your whole world around. You did it for me. You do it for anybody.
Simply put, gently applied laser light removes bacteria and diseased tissue, which means less inflammation and a fast, comfortable return to firmer teeth and a normal routine. For a free consultation about the no-cut, no-sew, no-fear solution for gum disease, call the Laser Dentist. Dr. Dennis Clark in Lebanon at 451-1440. That's 451-1440.
Book lovers, you can support summer reading for kids and pick up some summer reading for yourself at bargain prices. The Friends of the Albany Public Library Summer Book Sale is coming up this Friday and Saturday at the Albany Public Library Meeting Room. Hardback fiction, mystery, and children's books, plus hundreds of paperbacks. And the price? All the books only 50 cents to $2. Load up with bargains and help out the Children's Summer Reading Program at the Friends of the Albany Public Library's Summer Book Sale this Friday and Saturday.
Less hype, just quality news, sports, and smart talk. From your friends at 1580 KGAL.
And back we are in Skin Talk. Just pleased once again to have Physician's Assistant Mark Williams, Resident Dermatologist Corey Mon, and Cajun Joe back once again on the microphone. Glad to see you with your LSU shirt on. Go Louisiana.
Yeah, my age, just good to be vertical.
There you go. One of the things you might want to check out on YouTube, we were just looking at it here during the break. Corey, tell us about it. It's a video called There's 16-Year-Old Me.
Yeah, we were discussing during the break just a little bit about the youth and some of the adults even that we see that have very, very dark tans, and the perception of these days of needing to be really dark for that to be attractive. And, you know, it's an odd change from the past where being tan meant you were a peasant working in the fields, and people used to powder their faces to look more white because that meant you were of a higher class, and now it's kind of switched. But there's a video that's on the internet, on YouTube. You can find it. You just search for Dear 16-Year-Old Me. It should be the first one that comes up. It is a video made by a lady whose husband passed away from melanoma in his early 30s. And it's just an awareness campaign that they're trying to inform people, hey, look, this is what I wish I would have been able to tell myself when I was 16 years old. And, you know, we talk a lot about the cancer, which is the most important and the scariest side of this tan generation. But something that touches a little bit more home with those people that are doing it for cosmetic purposes is cancer's not real for them right now. And when it is, it's unfortunate. But what is real is the fact that they are going to photo age at a tremendous rate. And so not just the cancer risks, but you're also going to look 10 to 20 years older down the road because of the damage that you've gotten. And we know now from recent research that the sunscreens are protecting against photo aging. And so obviously it's blocking the UV light and trying to prevent that deep damaging tan, and then you tend to look better as you age. And that, I think that's something that does hit home with these the younger generation and these tans, is that you're going to look a lot older in your 40s than you would if you kind of protect yourself.
So, Mark and Corey, when you walk down the street and you see a young lady and she's got this really dark tan, and she's trying to be sexy and so on and so forth, and you as dermatologists, you see this all the time. What's the one-word response you have when you see this young gal? It's chocolate tan.
Cringe.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely cringe. I've seen plenty of young ladies who use tanning booths who've had melanoma. I mean, 20-year-olds. So it's real.
My one word would be wow. It could go either way. Wow, she looks good, or wow, what is she doing to herself?
Yeah. I think a quick little plug just as we're finishing up today's talk is that sunscreens need to be applied in the right amounts. The official recommendation is 2 milligrams per square centimeter, which is hard to interpret, but basically a golf ball-sized amount of sunscreen per appendage per your face. If you apply it in lesser amounts, the SPF does drop, and this may be one devil's advocate to the SPF 30 argument, is that if you're only putting it on half as thick as you're supposed to, you're only getting half the SPF. And so if you know you're going to chronically put on the sunscreen, make sure you get a higher SPF.
Okay. Thank you to Mark, Corey, and Cajun Joe for being with us on Skin Talk. It's the second Thursday of every month. Don't forget, tomorrow, it's From the Sidelines once again with Radio Ray. You can get your Radio Ray fix tomorrow. I'm Dave Adams. Make it a good day.
Around the clock, around the world. Your first choice for information is News Talk 1580, KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.